So what I'll do is just pull up the guidelines for the first reaction paper, and I can walk through those guidelines with you.
That'd be great.
But sometimes, doing the assignment for the first time, you're a little bit unsure, but once you get the hang of it, it should be pretty easy to do. So basically, all these assignments, the reaction papers are going to be formatted in the same way. We're going to have a little bit of background into the reading, and then I'll ask, basically, a few questions, and sometimes I'll ask you to identify elements of structure and agency within the theories as well. Once you start practicing that, because that's a big part of the 2 book reports we'll be doing. So basically, the first question, and all these are worth 6 points, and so the assignment's worth 30 points total. The first question asks you to, and just in general, we talk about themes of theories, different types of theories in general. So that's what I'm asking you to identify in the first part of the paper. What is the theme or the general type of theory in the Communist Manifesto? So we talked about Machiavelli's De Prince. That was a theory of social control. And then, throughout the semester, we'll have theories of social change, self-change, social order. So, those are the kind of the general types of theory. So if we had to label the Communist Manifesto as a type of theory, what would you label it as? Okay. So number 1 is going to be short and sweet. This is the label you put on it in terms of what type of theory it is in general. Read Gardner's introduction. She always, does a good job of setting this up in terms of what the theory is about, and go through the lectures as well, where I also talk about kind of the types of theory and then what's going on inside of it. So number 2, under capitalism, which for Marx and Engels is this new mode of production in society. As I mentioned, for us, for the most part, capitalism is all that we really know. But it wasn't until this time period, around the 19th century, we really see capitalism emerging for the first time as a way to organize society. And so they're interested in the social changes as a consequence of the new mode of production. So under capitalism, there's a new struggle that emerges. And so who are these 2 groups that go against one another, the oppressor and the oppressed? So who are the 2 groups, and what separates the groups from one another? Okay. Number 3 basically talks about a middle class. So although generally speaking, the 2 different groups who struggle against one another kind of ignores the existence of a middle class, they do say a middle class does exist, but ultimately over time, and that middle class will see change. And so basically, who makes up the middle class? Who are these people? And then over time, within that capitalist system, what's going to happen to the middle class, according to the theory. Number 4, we're looking at the proletariat, the workers' exploitation. So how are they exploited in 2 ways? So, identify, each form of exploitation according to Marx and Engels, and then how does this exploitation ultimately help promote a labor organization? So kind of connect those dots. And so all these questions, besides the first one, I give you kind of a page range in which you can find kind of the needed information. And so as long as you're answering what I'm asking you to answer, you're going to be good to go. So some of these questions have multiple parts. So just make sure that you're answering each part. So for example, number 3, who makes up the middle class? The prediction, and then, why is this? So 3 parts to number 3. So let's make sure you answer everything that I'm asking you to answer. And then finally, number 5, identify and discuss an example of agency. an example of free will in the framework. Where can we see free will operating in their theory? So that's what the Marx and Engels one basically looks like. And again, the next papers will ultimately kind of be the same in terms of how I organize things, but just be over a different type of theory. And I would argue, I think they tend to get easier throughout the semester as you get used to kind of reading and thinking about theory. And some of these early theories are kind of abstract compared to later on, especially when we get to the American theories. They speak our language a little bit more compared to kind of the older European theorists. So basically, that's how we should approach the reaction papers, and specifically what's going on with Marx and Engels. So now let me turn it over to you guys. You guys have any questions about this or anything else?
Not at the moment. Pretty much answered all mine.
Are there different editions of the Communist Manifesto? Like, would there be any discrepancies between the editions on the pages? I mean, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the book's been published and republished many times.
Mm-hmm.
So, the word for word, they'll be the same, assuming you're reading, the English translation, but page numbers may differ a little bit. So, for some reason, if you're not using the Gardner book, then, or a different edition of the Gardner book, then the page numbers will be different. And, just give me kind of a heads up if you are using kind of a different edition or something, and I can just kind of be in the know about that.
Okay. I didn't realize it was actually in this book.
Yeah. So again, yeah, so make sure that you're following, the syllabus and course schedule, because everything's laid out, in the rule.
Okay.
And, pages, when assignments are due. So, you don't have to rely on me just in terms of reminding you. You can, get ahead of things and work ahead. For our class, it's a little bit different because we really haven't done assignment work yet. Like my intro class, they turned in, multiple assignments at this point. My social psych class, I've turned in, multiple assignments by now. But for our class, we're kind of taking it slow. And sometimes that means maybe not everybody's in the game right now. But once we get the work started, I think everybody will get more involved and more on top of things, because we have this, and then we have an in-class assignment coming up. I just created that today. I'll be posting it probably tomorrow. So, all the assignments will be kind of coming faster now. We kind of get into the semester and a couple weeks into it.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds good.
So Addison, anything else I can do?
Is there a way you would like us to cite this reaction paper?
This, as long as you're giving me the page numbers, that's what I'm looking for. So if you're using a quote, if you're using an idea,
Right.
Page 43, just kind of put that there. I just want to get you in the habit of citing, because, you're going to be asked to do that in your other classes. And I ask you to do that in the book reports as well. So just make sure you kind of show me the page number. So, if I want to go back into the reading and kind of find, what you're talking about, that gives me, where to find it, that information.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So otherwise, just in general, like I just said, the lectures are going up little by little, and then the assignments are going to start to come as well. If you look in our class schedule, I think basically you're going to have in-class assignments, reaction papers, in-class assignments, coming up pretty quickly back to back to back. And then, we'll have our first report coming up soon, sooner than later. So, it's been a kind of slower start to our class, but things really get going, basically in next week.
Okay.
And yeah, I think that's basically all I can say, that I haven't already said in the lectures. So.
Alrighty. Well, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, and I'll be in touch. And if you have any other questions, just let me know.
Alrighty. Bye.
All right. Okay.
So do we make a different like Zoom meeting or just stay in this one for the advisement meeting?
Yeah.